Joining us now to discuss that is the Attorney General of Virginia, Jason Miyares. Sir, good to have you back with us.
Ben, thanks so much for having me. Great to be with you.
This is a wild story. I can't even believe that we're still talking about this. It seems common sense to me that non-citizens should not be on the voter rolls, but today, the United States Department of Justice under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris insisted to the United States Supreme Court they need to stay there. What's going on?
Well, as you've noted, common sense isn't very common in Washington, D.C. So this all dates back to a 2006 law signed by Democratic governor, then Governor Tim Kaine, that to remove non-citizens off our voter rolls. And so what has happened is individuals go into our local DMV. They're seeking driving privileges. As you know, the Democrats under Northam made it much easier to get driving privileges if you're non-citizens. And they've clicked a box affirming they're a non-citizen, but they've ended up on our voting rolls. Either they have inadvertently registered to vote or somebody else registered them and never determined they were non-citizens. DMV forwards this to the Department of Elections, and they then notify the individual on a case-by-case basis saying, listen, you have self-identified as a non-citizen. We're going to give you a period of time to come make sure you know, let the voter registrars know that you are indeed a citizen. Otherwise, if you don't let us know that, we're going to have to remove you off the voter rolls. And that is the process that's been in place. It is remarkable to me that 25 days before the election, the Department of Justice, of everything and all the challenges we're facing right now in our country, this is what they would choose to pursue. And so we've now litigated this in court. And right now we've appealed what was a Fourth Circuit ruling that we were not pleased with to the Supreme Court requesting an emergency stay, because right now what the district court did is they essentially have ordered the Commonwealth of Virginia to place non-citizens, over 1,000, close to 1,500 roughly, back on our voter rolls. And that really is the issue. They're asking us to ignore Virginia law. And that's why we're challenging this and taking this up to the Supreme Court.
So the Justice Department filing this afternoon alleges that Virginia is in, quote, clear violation of something called the quiet period provision. And additionally, they say that some eligible voters are apparently among the 1,600 that are at question. What do you say to their filing today?
First of all, this is not a purge. These are individuals that have self-identified as non-citizens. And listen, there is a chance that somebody's a non-citizen checked the wrong box. But our job is then, when you are getting information that this person has self-identified that they are not a citizen of the Commonwealth or the United States of America, to let them know, listen, we can't, by law, we're not allowing you on that voting roll. A purge is when somebody just says, listen, we're going to just randomly view anybody with a certain last name, we're going to get rid of them. That's what a purge is. That is not the case here. We categorically reject any notion this is a so-called purge. We're simply following the law about individuals that have self-identified. And then we give these individuals that maybe inadvertently checked the wrong box the ability to correct it. And then there's this final fail-safe. In Virginia, we allow same-day voter registration. So let's say hypothetically you go and you click the wrong box and you never bothered to check your mail, you never responded to the inquiries from the Department of Elections, and you show up, you could still register to vote that day and cast a provisional ballot. So there's multiple safeguards in place. We would categorically reject this. But think about this, Vince. Remember the SAVE Act, which Speaker Johnson championed, which would require at the federal level, federal law, so only citizens could vote in American elections. And remember the biggest argument against that. You had Chuck Schumer and others in the U.S. Senate said, this is not necessary, this is not needed, because each and every state have adequate provisions to make sure that non-citizens are not voting in their elections. And so on the same side, they defeat federal legislation saying the states have the adequate tools to make sure non-citizens vote. But then these same individuals, the same federal government, these same leftist groups are then suing these states that are actually trying to follow the law in their own books and make sure and ensure that non-citizens aren't on our voter rolls. It really is stunning to see, and again, misplaced priorities up in Washington.
Attorney General Miyares, one of the things I've noticed about the numbers as we're talking about them is that right now the only numbers that are being contested is 1,600 non-citizens. If I recall correctly, Virginia had removed over 6,000 non-citizens from the voter rolls. Does that mean that those other, let's do some quick math here, 4,400 are not actually being debated? In other words, those non-citizens were successfully removed and they will not be coming back?
No, actually, what it was is up until the so-called quiet period of 90 days before, we removed 63. The Department of Election removed 6,300. Those are not being contested, nor the 59,000 deceased Virginians that were also removed over the process. We announced those, but the governor announced as part of his executive order that we would be checking on a regular basis those that have self-identified. So this is really post August 7th, 1,500 roughly. And just to remind your viewers, take you back in the Wayback Machine, Bob McDonnell, when he won his race for Attorney General in Virginia all the way back in 2005, his statewide total was roughly about 580, if I recall. It was definitely less than 1,000. And so we have elections. Virginia is a swing state. We have a lot of elections that are decided by just a handful of votes. And so, yes, we want to make sure that our voting rules are accurate. We want to make sure if you're eligible to vote, exercise that amazing God-given privilege that you have to vote in our elections if you're an American citizen. But yes, if you have self-identify that you're not an American citizen, you end up on our voting rolls.
Yes.
We're going to have to do our job, and that's why we're appealing to the Supreme Court to step in.
Well, one of the many ironies in this story is that it is a felony for an alien to register to vote in the United States of America. And as Han von Spakovsky, the elections expert, points out at the Heritage Foundation, that what the DOJ should be doing right now is actually asking you to assist them in providing a list of anybody who may have broken federal law. Has anybody at the DOJ reached out to do that?
No. And here's the other great irony. Somebody that is perhaps an individual that's here on a green card or they have a visa and they're not a citizen and they check the wrong box, you would think, and if they actually end up inadvertently thinking they have essentially voting privileges, they get individual notification in the mail on the voting roll to go vote. Wouldn't you think we should actually protect individuals here where they're not voting and we're giving them the right information saying, in some ways, if you end up on the voting roll, we all know what happens. You get inundated with text messages and phone calls and campaigns saying, go vote, go vote, go vote. They're actually inducing this person possibly that really otherwise want to know to potentially commit a felony. So you would think this is one way to protect. We talk about this over-criminalization we have in our society. Why don't we make sure that these non-citizens aren't being induced to go vote as well? Yeah. So you have multiple layers here. We want to make sure that our elections have both integrity, but also we want to be able to do our jobs. And that's really what we're just asking the Supreme Court is allow us to continue to follow Virginia law. This is not a purge. These are individuals that have voluntarily self-identified as non-citizens. We just want to make sure those individuals aren't on our voter rolls come Election Day.
You know, this week I had some business to deal with personally in Virginia at the DMV. So while I was there, I was dealing with their touchscreen as I was standing there. You know, at the DMV, it's a cattle call. It's it's a very dehumanizing experience, unfortunately. But I'm standing there, I'm using the touchscreen, and I'm telling you that the menu items on this touchscreen, and I look at all these things in detail for a living, was confusing enough that I had to put my head up and go, wait a second, I don't want to change anything about my voter registration status. Why am I getting this screen? It's amazing, and I think that screen is presented to everybody who's going to the DMV, Mr. Attorney General.
Yeah, well, listen, I will say, do a shameless plug for the Youngkin administration. When he took office, the average DMV wait time for a citizen that walked in their DMV was about 52 minutes, and last I checked, I think it was down to 12. So they've gotten much more efficient, but we want to make sure, listen, that's why we have these safeguards to make sure that if an individual checks that wrong box, they have a period of time where they can make sure that they can notify their registrars and make sure that they are properly registered. But listen, at the end of the day, this is a law, a bipartisan bill that's been in the books for close to 2 decades, and this surely shouldn't be something that's being litigated. Yeah. The time and resources the Department of Justice is utilizing on this, I think, really is stunning, and that's why we're asking the Supreme Court to step in.
Attorney General Miyares, on a different issue, are you going to be with the governor, President Trump, this weekend in Salem, Virginia?
I think that, yes. My team is trying to plan all the logistics, but that's my understanding. And, we're excited. I mean, we're seeing a lot out there on the ground that gives us a lot of both hope and confidence. I was at the grocery store the other day, and I saw a bumper sticker that said, "Make groceries affordable again." And I thought, wow, that just kind of sums up this campaign. It's just harder to live in Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's America. It's harder to get groceries, harder to put gas in your car, harder to pay rent, harder to just buy a home. I saw a study that came out that said when Trump left office, the median household income in America to be a first-time home buyer was $74,000, and that number now today in America is $128,000. That's just stunning. It's just that much more expensive to really pursue the American dream. under the Biden-Harris administration. I think that's why 80% roughly Americans think we're on the wrong track, and they want change. And I think that's what this election really is about. So, listen, every vote counts. We encourage everybody to vote and vote early. I know that there were a lot of times Republicans poo-pooed that, but we really have encouraged it, because what that does is when you vote early, your names get off the voter list, and we no longer have to text and bother you. The average voter needs to be touched, either call, text, or knocked on the door 7 times to remind them to vote. And that actually saves us money. We can go to what we call low propensity voters. Those individuals only vote maybe once every 4 or 5 times. We can actually expend those resources to communicate with them about the importance to go vote. And it's a critical election. I think the decisions we make in the next 5 or 6 days in this country are really going to determine the next 2 or 3 decades for our trajectory. And so I don't know about you, but I'm really tired of weakness at home and weakness abroad.
Me too. Attorney General Miyares, in Virginia, President Trump trailed Hillary Clinton by 5 points in 2016 in the final tally, 10 points against Joe Biden in 2020. Being one of the top Republicans in the state and an insightful guy, how close do you think this could be?
I think it's going to be close. I think the Biden-Harris approval ratings, when I got elected in 2021, Joe Biden's approval rating in Virginia was about 49%. So he ran just a couple points ahead of the presidential approval rating. Gosh, the last poll I saw, Biden's approval rating was 42, 43%. So Virginians are not happy. They've seen what they've seen at the gas pump, at the grocery store. And what they don't like is the media constantly telling them, oh, no, you don't understand. The economy's great. They don't feel that. They certainly don't feel that. And then you take this kind of extreme left woke ideology that seems to be really pervasive in today's Democratic Party. And that's really, really gotten so many parents tired. I talked to an individual. This is kind of an amazing kind of anecdotal story, but this is an individual that reached out to me. We were at an event. He's an attorney. And he said he didn't vote for Trump either in 16 or 20, but he said he has a son, a middle school son. He went to go visit his son at middle school. And at the middle school, they noticed that each boy was sitting by themselves at a table with just other girls. And so he asked the principal, why is this? And he says, well, we found when the boys are all together, they get a little bit too rambunctious. And, boys being boys, middle school boys. And he said, and he asked his son about it. And he said he was so aghast at this sense that they don't want young boys to even be boys anymore. It's so frustrated him. He said, I'm going to vote for Trump this time. I didn't vote for him in 16 or 20. But I'm going to vote for him this time because I'm so tired of suddenly my son feeling like just by being just a normal, 12-year-old boy, somehow he's somehow bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that he's being, disruptive or anything. But at the end of the day, he said, I just couldn't understand why you would segregate boys from actually being able to build friendships with other boys, which, is such an important part when you're a teenager. I thought it was a really enlightening observation that somebody that he said, listen, I didn't vote for President Trump in 16 or 20. He called it a war on boys. And
Yes.
He said, I'm tired of the war on boys. And I thought it was a very kind of anecdotal thing that you just kind of came out of nowhere. And it really opened my eyes a little bit to some of the frustration some of these parents are feeling, for sure.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, sometimes it's just the casual acts of tyranny that open your eyes. You never know what moment might trigger you. Thank you, Mr. Attorney General Jason Miyares in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Always good to have you on the show. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, one last thing I really should ask. This is the most critical question. How quickly will the Supreme Court get back to you? I didn't ask. Do you think it could be imminent?
I think we'll get an answer in the next 24, 48 hours. That'd be my expectation. So stay tuned.
The next 24 to 48 hours. Okay, sir, thank you very much.